should do every time.
Yeah, I know. So, before we actually start like the electronics part, so I'm finally excited, maybe, for an Ubisoft game.
Oh, what game is that?
The new they announced a new Star Wars game, and they announced it on like Sunday. I think we knew they were making one, but like we didn't know anything else besides like the title, which was like Star Wars Outlaw or something like that. And they had actually had a trailer on Sunday, and then Monday they're like, "Here's 10 minutes of gameplay footage."
Oh wow. You
Yeah,
don't get that very often.
No, like never nowadays.
Yeah.
And I was watching it, and I watched the gameplay footage, and I'm like, as long as it doesn't go into the problem with a lot of Ubisoft, it's an open world game, which has first strike against it for me at least. Like very rarely open world games get me excited. Like Zelda is like the only one. Because too many do, honestly, it's actually what's called the Ubisoft formula of open world, which is like, here's a giant map and thousands of icons for you to go run towards and go do things. It's just like, all it does is make a checklist for you to go down the list. They're like, I did that, I did this, I did that. I got the eggs, I got the bacon. I delivered the milk. And it's always like, collect 5 like skins of deer to make a quiver.
Yeah.
It's always that. I know a lot of games have that, but like Ubisoft games was like even more generic than, and I'm hoping it isn't like that. When they were in the 10 minutes of gameplay, it was totally like a very scripted event, like actual scripted story event, which was kind of interesting to have that.
Now.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to have something like that in a open world game. So we'll see. It's still got like a year till that game comes out.
The new Zelda has more of this.
Of what? Scripted events?
Scripted events.
Well, that's fine.
They're minor.
Yeah, I just don't want what I really liked about Breath of the Wild, and actually this thing, Elden Ring did the same thing. And Elden Ring did it even like more not the Ubisoft model. It was like there's a giant world, and then through the design of the world, you indicate where things might be.
Yeah.
Where like that was the great thing about Breath of the Wild is you just be like walking around and you go, oh, that looks interesting. I'm going to go look over there. And on your way to that, you discover like 20 things.
And what's funny is Tears of the Kingdom is identical to that, but you discover 40 things.
40 things on the way.
Like, okay, so Tears of the Kingdom has it's broken up, I think, pretty well in terms of it has some things that are scripted, where it's like, okay, this is clearly meant to be longer than like 10 minutes. But then it has a lot of the 10-minute things in there too. But it also has the fetch quests, but they're not like goofy. Like there's a guy in the game. This is not a spoiler. This is just, there's a guy in the game who is a well enthusiast, like water wells.
Water wells. Okay.
Yeah, and there's 53 water wells in the whole game, and he's like, find all the water wells. But it's not like your objective is like checking them off a list unless you choose to do that. Mm-hmm. It's not like a quest in that sense. So it's like, yeah, you're walking around, hey, there's a well. Okay, I'll go check it out and tell the well enthusiast. Like, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek because, like, even Nintendo was like, fetch quests are dumb, so we're going to lean into it, make them really dumb.
Yeah, really dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so it's gonna be interesting to see what they end up doing with it. I'm already sold on the character. I like the character a lot, and they have definitely I think that's like the Star Wars formula now going forward, how it's always going to be. It's like the human character or alien character and then like the robot droid combo. And like the droid's always the swarmy or rude or
Quippy.
quippy or all three of those. Depends.
That's the Solo did that and like really pushed it.
Rogue One did that.
Both of them, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, before that, you always had R2D2 and C3PO, but in 4, 5, and 6, they were kind of their own thing. Like they were always kind of together, and they kind of just did their own things on this. They were like the B story in those episodes of Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
They were never like. I mean, they interacted with the main cast, but they weren't in like. If you just got rid of them, it didn't actually hurt the main story.
Yeah.
Whereas in Solo and Rogue One, if you got rid of the droid characters, it would impact the main story because they were actually written as main characters.
Right.
So yeah, I think Rogue One was the first one to really do that, and then because even in the prequels, 1, 2, and 3, C3PO and R2 are still kind of treated as like the B characters with their own kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're doing that again, and it's like, okay, that's probably the formula going forward. Because in Jedi Fallen Order / Survival has the same thing. You're I can't remember his name. Anyways, but he has a droid partner. But that droid doesn't talk. He just quips. Like R2-D2 all the time. Whereas the one in this Outlaw game talks. So that's going to be very interesting. So yeah, I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping it leans farther away from the normal Ubisoft open world formula. I'm going to wait till the game comes out, and then I'm going to be like, okay, show me when... Because there's always going to be like an hour or two of like on rails story, right? That's going to be like the best thing ever. And then it goes, okay, here's the open world. So I want to see like that open world part and be like, is this game I'm going to be interested in or not? Because that's what happened to me with the Mad Max game. Came out like a year or two after the Fury Road came out. Mm-hmm. And I was playing it, and the first like 4 hours of the game was awesome. Like, I was having so much fun. It was like this open world sandbox. You just drove your car and like did Mad Max stuff. It was awesome. And then it was like you kind of finish this area, and then it goes, now here's the whole map. And then there was thousands of icons of all the same stuff you just did for the past 4 hours that you just had to like do on repeat for the next 30 hours. And I'm like, nah, uninstall. I'm not doing that all again, no matter how fun it was. Also, because the story wasn't really engaging, like the overarching story. So, no matter how good the gameplay loop was, it just wasn't enough to keep me attached to that game. It was fun though while it lasted. That was a good $10 I spent.
$10
on Steam. Yeah, it's a great game.
What'd you guys end up playing on Friday?
We ended up playing. Oh, what is it called? It starts with a P. Proteus.
Okay.
It's a boomer shooter co-op game.
Oh, was it good?
It was. I actually was having a lot of fun. And I think Raj just his ADHD wore out, and so he didn't want to play it anymore.
Yeah.
I was having a blast though. It was a lot of fun. I thought. It definitely had some weird stuff with like the co-op. Like you'd open up the map and like there's just your friends are not that you're playing with are just not on the map. So it's like I don't know where they went. And it's like typical like Doom 2 style levels, so it's really easy to get lost.
Oh yeah.
Guns were a lot of fun to shoot. Some very interesting design choices with the guns, though. Then what we played? Oh, and then we played. We tried to play a different game first, and it just didn't work. So I don't remember what that one was. But then we played Sea of Thieves.
Yeah. Okay.
Apparently, Sea of Thieves is having a new expansion.
Always. They just cranked that game, dude.
It's Monkey Ball, not Monkey Ball. Monkey Island.
Oh,
Point and
really?
click adventure game, yeah.
Oh, I love Monkey Island, dude.
Yeah, so
With
we should play that when it
Guybrush
comes up.
Threepwood.
Yeah, so they're basically doing a Monkey Island arc in that game.
Oh, that's cool.
So I think we should go play that when that comes
We,
up.
like at the end of the day, like I think we played one of the adventures in that whole game. We played a ton of hours of that game, but
Yeah.
only one time did we actually.
And we didn't even
adventure.
finish the.
And we didn't even play it with Joe. We just played it, the three
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah, and we didn't. Oh, it was a timer saying for us to start. Yeah, we didn't even finish the Pirates of the Caribbean Johnny Depp adventure. It was really
like I
cool
said,
that
I think-
we started.
I think we did like one or maybe two missions.
Yeah, I think we did like 2 of the missions, and there's like 8 or something like that in
Yeah.
that game for
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. It was very like Disney ride though. It was like sit down and like stuff happens and you just like go through the motions.
I gotta see.
And then there's some
This,
puzzles to solve, and that was about it. It was fun though. The voice acting was great.
If they gotta have the pirate LeChuck. Oh, there's a whole there's a trailer for it. Oh, it just released like 2 days ago.
Yeah, the trailer was on Sunday. It's at the like Xbox Game Fest or something. I don't think it's. I don't
Oh,
think
they
it's out
have
yet.
you can visit Monkey Island?
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
yeah. I like how the art style of that game lends itself really well to that theme.
And they call it the Scum Bar too. Like
Yeah.
Scum for the old point and click
Yeah.
engine from LucasArts? Hell yes.
Yeah, they did a really good job, I think. Well, we'll see when we play it. Is it out, or is it just that was the trailer for it?
Let me see.
I don't think it's out yet.
No, this is just a reveal trailer.
Yeah.
Oh,
World
July
premiere.
20th.
Oh, July
So
20th.
in a month. A little bit over a month.
World premiere.
Oh, that's cool. Guybrush is the governor of Monkey Island now. That's such a good game.
Yeah, so in 1 month we'll play that.
Okay, yeah, we need, we need to play Monkey. I love Monkey Island.
Yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, Steven will love this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the I wish I had more time to play games.
More time to do everything.
That is actually that's more true. More time to do anything.
Anything, yeah.
I guess that's one thing though is like you and I we were just never bored.
No. Yeah, it's very rare.
Very rare to be bored. Like at all.
And I never have a situation where I'm like, I don't know what I could do. There's always a could do for me.
Yeah, there always is a could do.
Like most of the time, like I put things off to play video games.
That's exactly what. Yeah, that happened on Sunday for me. I'm like, you know what? I just want to sit down and play Octopath Traveler. it
Let's
was
go ahead
also
and
that
fire
morning.
this thing off.
Huh?
Let's fire this thing off.
Oh yeah. Welcome to the Macrofab Engineering Podcast, a weekly show about all things engineering, DIY projects, manufacturing, industry news, and copying chip fabs. We're your hosts, electrical engineers, Parker Dolman.
And Stephen Craig.
This is episode 383. So a little bit of podcast news, I guess. Last week, I was on Bill Hurd's and Ben Jordan's webcast is what they keep calling it. It was a podcast. Coriolis Effect, and that was a lot of fun. Steven, you should totally go on that webcast too when you have time.
I'm planning on reaching out to them. This sounds really fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to hang out with them, and we talked about design for manufacturability of pin and paste, some origin stories from Macrofab, inbound inspection of component. It was really weird. It kept just jumping around. It was a lot like this. Our podcast.
I was about to say, so it's like this.
Yeah, except it's done on Friday at 1:00.
Yeah.
So, and then the other news is we talk about our Slack channel, macrofab.com/Slack to join. Invites are open. We are working on a new community site that's going to be more forum-ish than chat-based. Based off, there's a software platform called Discourse. So I'm looking at that right now. That's probably what we're going to go with.
And just to be clear, it's not getting rid of chat. It's just basically a new platform that will allow a lot of extra functionality that our Slack channel doesn't have, such as history and being able to capture projects and users being able to create their own topics, and just a lot of extra features that makes the community more right now our Slack channel is just chat, and
it is just chat.
We have what, 90 days of history, something
it's
like that.
It's 30 or something.
Yeah, it's 30. So if you post something and you want to go back, or you saw something, you lose it pretty quickly in our Slack channel right now. So we're looking at alternatives that could make this community a little bit more robust.
Yeah, and the great thing about Discourse is it's also searchable indexable by Google and other search engines, so that if you that's actually my biggest problem with our current Slack community is if it's old in 30 days, one, it goes away, but two, if someone's just Googling a question, like an engineering question, and we've answered it in our Slack channel, they won't see it at all. And so I'm hoping moving to this system, one, allows more people to join our community and get more information out of it, but also helps other people by just searching around for questions and stuff. It's kind of like a Discourse is kind of like a combination of Slack, Discord, Stack Exchanges, kind of like with
your generic forums
with a little sprinkle of generic forums in there.
Yeah,
because it does have a chat plugin, so we'll have this is just chat, right? And then we'll have threads and forums. And the great thing we'll be able, when we release a podcast, we'll be able to be like, hey, discussion about this podcast will go into this thread for this episode. And so now the great thing is people listening to the back catalog can go, oh, there was something I wanted to talk about for that. Well, you go in our Slack channel, it won't exist at all, right? But now someone can go in and search for that link, and then they can actually comment on that particular podcast episode.
Yeah, and we actually get that almost weekly now, where somebody will just post in Slack saying, "Hey, back on episode 136 when you guys said XYZ, here's blah blah blah." It's like, thanks, that's great, but it would be really awesome to have like a place for those kinds of comments to live.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with that done, we're going to our topics this week are or will be Autodesk dropping dedicated Eagle support. That's going to be a hot topic. It's already sizzling up all the news out there. And then we're going to talk about there's a ex-Samsung executive stealing tech to recreate a chip plant in China, that's kind of interesting. And then unconventional Father's Day gift ideas. And then if we get to it, box truck updates. Adventures in warranty work. Oh man.
All right, so drop the bomb. What has Autodesk done?
Okay, so an email came out last week from Autodesk that by effective June 7th, 2026, so in 3 years and minus a week at this point, Autodesk will no longer sell Eagle as a standalone software platform, and they won't renew subscriptions to it at all after that. And they mentioned that Fusion 360 Electronics is the path forward. And supposedly, according to the email, Eagle files are fully compatible with Fusion 360 Electronics. Funny enough, I talked to Ben Jordan on the Coriolis Effect last week, and he was the head product dude that got Eagle into Fusion. And we talked a little bit about this, and funny enough, the first iteration of it was literally Eagle's code base was in Fusion.
Yeah, and just with a bunch of glue logic, right?
Yeah, with a bunch of glue logic on top of it. Now, it's definitely a lot farther along than that now. And he did mention, he's like, oh yeah, if you're starting out, just do a simple board. And I'm like, no, I'm going to throw my, the board I need to work on next is for Snacky, the snack machine. I need to build Rev 2 of its controller board. And so I was just going to throw the whole thing in there. And basically the problem with it is, with Fusion 360 Electronics, is there's apparently a performance gap between that and Eagle standalone. I don't know how big of a performance, and also I have a pretty beastie machine, so it might not even matter. But that's basically where the rub is at, is there's a performance gap between identical boards in each system. But I'm going to give it a shot.
Meaning that standalone Eagle runs them a lot better, right?
Yes. Supposedly. And I'm taking, Ben's word at that.
Well, and we had Ben on the podcast, episode 253, which was December of 2020.
Yeah.
And I remember very distinctly Ben was saying, like, putting his hands up and like, we're not getting rid of Eagle.
Yeah.
With a little bit of undertones of right now.
Yeah. Well, Ben doesn't even work there anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that could honestly be in a decision made after he left.
Right. I mean, it's. I feel like it was fairly obvious that they were doing the amoeba thing to Eagle, where here's Eagle, it'll be on the side, and then nom nom, they just consume it, and it becomes part of their platform. And then at that point, why have like a standalone Eagle?
Oh yeah, because you'd have to effectively have two different developer set of developers working on each different product that are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. I don't have a problem at all with Fusion and how it does things. Steven does the same thing. We're big supporters of Fusion. I know a lot of people can't get past the subscription model, but that doesn't bother me at all. I honestly still think Fusion it's like $70 a month right now, is honestly like the best deal in 3D CAD software you can get.
That is the argument for all of this. So I'm a subscriber to Fusion as well. I actually do the yearly thing because I just know I will use it, so I just pay the yearly because it's a little bit cheaper. And what you get for what you pay, I feel is absolutely incredible. I mean, if say if you do it for a decade, you've paid enough to just purchase, a comparable software. But with Fusion, what you get for that monthly payment or that yearly payment, I feel is you can't beat it. And then they stack a full EDA tool on it, such that you have one environment to do your mechanical, your analysis, and your electrical. I to me that Eagle is one of those ones that where a subscription service feels worth it to me, where it's like, yeah, I get what I'm going for, because a lot of the plugins, if you look at those plugins, the comparable plugins in other programs like thermal analysis and things like that, not that I'm doing that all the time, but if you look at those plugins and how much they cost in other programs, like just that alone is worth the money. So the to be honest, for longtime listeners, they'll know that I've complained about Eagle on more than one occasion. It's not necessarily my favorite, but just given how integrated Eagle is with Fusion, I have considered on more than one occasion, should I transfer over to Eagle just because I like Fusion that much? And then I have one design software that I pay for, and I get everything through it. And because of its integration, I get I don't know, the warm and fuzzies that my design is correct in a way. Because right now with everything, I have to go through my own EDA tool, export everything, suck it into Fusion, and then double check it. The whole integration with Eagle, where I can design a 3D element and then just move seamlessly over to my board, work on it, and then move backwards. That feels really that alone feels worth going with the Fusion 360 option, even if they kept the standalone Eagle available.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's exactly what Fusion, or no, sorry, not Fusion, Autodesk was going for. Was, yeah, sure, it's a subscription model, but you get the whole package all in one for a price that is frankly reasonable. Now, at the end of the day, it depends on who you're paying attention to in terms of who's screaming the loudest when it comes to these kinds of things, because I've been doing some research on this, and there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of people who are upset that Eagle is going away, and I think a lot of that is due to the user base of Eagle being complacent that there was a free option that was pretty good. Eagle had a free option for a long time that was great, and I think it brought in a very large user base that was willing to put up with Eagle's eagleness because it was free. The thing is, now KiCad KiCad is available, and it's actually like stable and usable now. So there's there's been a competitor in the Eagle space for quite a while now.
Yeah,
in that sense.
And looking at it, I think Autodesk, because around 2017 was when Autodesk bought CADsoft to incorporate Eagle. And around that time, that was when KiCad was starting to get better and start to become like a mainstay for hobbyists to actually design boards. And I think that was around the time like CERN
It wasn't Enthusiast, it was Daily Driver.
Yeah, CERN was investing a lot of money into KiCad as well. And I think what I see is Autodesk wants to push Eagle to be more like the Altium level of product and not the KiCad level of product.
100%. I absolutely agree.
And I think Eagle has a ways to go there, but I think them acquiring CADsoft was a way to get them the head start on that. And also, like, before that, Autodesk didn't even have a EDA tool, so they didn't know how to design one.
Mm-hmm.
They've been doing 2D software for design and then 3D, but not EDA.
Right, right. Well, and I think your argument or your statement there about them wanting it to be an Altium level product is absolutely what they're going for, but they want it to be that level of product on a subscription service that also includes all this other stuff. That's why it's
Mm-hmm.
in the family of Fusion and not just the standalone Eagle.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I think Autodesk is going to try to make one software that does everything that they do.
It seems like they're moving that direction.
Yeah. One ecosystem kind of thing. Um, what's interesting is of the people you were mentioning, the people who are screaming the loudest about this, and it's actually my experience, what I've read and experience online and in our Slack channel is it's actually the KiCad users that are screaming the loudest. The people who don't even use the software. And
I'm curious. Explain what you
well,
mean.
because everyone's just like, "Oh, move to KiCad now." And it's like, no, that's not like the people who are the Eagle users that are complaining about this
Mm-hmm.
aren't saying I need a new EDA tool now. They're complaining that they don't want to get rid of their standalone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what they're complaining about. They're not saying, "Oh, I need to go find a new EDA tool now," and then, but the KiCad people are honestly screaming into the void on Twitter and the like, saying, you know, try KiCad now. And it's like, no, that's not the point. And I think I'm gonna knock the KiCad peg down a bit for these people. It honestly feels like KiCad is like a cult. The people who use that software.
Yeah. Okay, so KiCad now, at least to me, because I'm an outsider on both of those, KiCad and Eagle, I've used both of them in a hobbyist sense and a professional sense before, but they're not my daily driver. But I feel like KiCad is what Eagle was 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, well, it's and on that whole like it's a cult thing. A while back, a other open source PCB EDA tool software was announced called Libre PCB. And we actually talked about it on the podcast a while back. And the most interesting thing about when that was announced was not that what the community should have done, like the community of electrical engineers and hobbyists and that kind of stuff, building electronics. We should have been like, oh, this is awesome. This is like new EDA tool. It's a competitor in this space. Yada yada yada. What actually it was tons of KiCad users shitting all over Libre PCB and saying, why aren't you using your development resources for KiCad? That's all it was. Like if you could go pull up like the Hackaday article, like thread, and I think there was one on Hacker News, a thread about it too, and it was just everyone was just like dogpiling this guy that wanted to make his own EDA tool.
Yeah, Libre PCB actually looks quite a bit like Eagle and KiCad. It looks very similar, to be honest.
I mean, if you peel back all the layers, all EDA tools are essentially the same.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, honestly, the what is fun about learning a new EDA tool is not that you get to learn a new tool. I'm learning a new one right now. It's that I know what I need the tool to do. Like I know I even know
The path.
the
You know the
verbiage and
path.
the language. I know the path. All I have to find now is like, what are the clicks that I have to do? What's the buttons that I have to press?
Oh, so no,
And
I take that back. You don't know the path, but you know your destination,
yeah, right.
and you
I
have
know-
to
I know
find the
destination.
path.
And like I can explain it to people, and it's funny too because like I'm in the same boat as a handful of people at work right now because we're all kind of there's people who are ahead of me in terms of learning it by a few months, but there's no one who's like
The master.
seasoned veteran. And so like I'll pull up, I'll mention like, hey, I need to execute XYZ, and they'll be like, well, I know the tool could do that, and I know what we're going for, but how? It's kind of fun. Uh, yeah, but so getting rid of Eagle is I actually let's preface this. Eagle has not gone away.
Yeah, it's
Eagle
still there.
still exists, and you know, there's a Hackaday article about this, and I've read a handful of other articles, and that whole screaming into the void, like Parker was saying, Eagle is not going away. It's not like the program is poof gone. It does exist, and the way Fusion 360 integrated Eagle in is they basically, like you said, they just took the code base and they plugged it into their own software and just gave fancier overlay buttons that do the exact same tasks. In fact, when you launch Eagle in Fusion 360, it ends up looking the same, just with a slightly fresher coat of paint on it. All of your base functions are all there. So this the screaming has to do with the standalone and it being slightly less expensive. Um, the program is not going away.
Correct. Yeah, and talking about this, we were talking about the subscription model earlier, and I wonder how that's working out for Autodesk. It's clear that the standalone they're not going to work on anymore because they don't want to have split code bases. And I bet you the Fusion 360 electronics, as they call it, is probably divergent enough now from the original Eagle code base that's why they've made that decision.
Yeah, because it's probably a pain in the butt to keep supporting both forks.
Yeah,
Right?
both forks. But on the subscription model thing, like, I like it a lot, and this is why I like it. Is I get because before Autodesk had the subscription for Eagle, I had like a copy of Eagle 6 for like ever, and I couldn't upgrade or anything because I couldn't afford to upgrade, like because it was like $4 or $5 to get an Eagle 7 license basically. Couldn't upgrade at all. And the moment they came out with the subscription service, I immediately signed up because I could afford it now. I could finally afford to get updates to this software. Now,
Yeah.
it's the same thing as like, it's you're just paying it over time, but at least it's not one big lump sum, which actually makes it easy for a hobbyist like me to actually afford it.
You know, I was reading articles. I think this was mentioned a handful of times in the Hackaday article about this, but this kind of idea that you don't own your software and you don't own your designs, and it being too expensive for small business. The main arguments in these articles I was reading was hobbyists and small businesses are the ones getting screwed in a sense out of this. Now, something that's kind of important to note is that there is still like a personal free use version of Eagle and Fusion 360 that still exists. So I think it is fairly limited. I think it's like 100 millimeters by 80 millimeter board is the largest you can make, and 2 layers, maybe 4, something like that. And with the free version of Fusion 360, you can only have, I don't remember what the number is, but
It's only like a certain
number.
amount of designs you can say.
Yeah, a certain number of designs. But that's for a hobbyist level. Okay, I can understand there's a little bit of limit there because maybe you're a hobbyist that's trying to get involved in a bazillion different things, and that can be difficult. Or maybe you just need to make a board that's really simple but bigger than 100 by 80 millimeters. Yeah, I get that. But when it comes to the small business thing, like, is $70 a month or $400 a year or whatever it is, I don't remember, is that too much of an ask for a small business? And then you have to ask the question, if that's too much of an ask for a small business, how small are you that that you can't afford that. And I don't want to come off as like elitist or anything like that, but eventually you do need to upgrade and get on your feet. So I don't know. Like I don't see this as that huge of a problem. Now I can if I use DipTrace on a regular basis. If DipTrace pulled the rug out from under me, I would probably feel offended as well, you know. But at the end of the day, like it really doesn't seem like that much of an ask, and you're gaining a lot. So one of the pros from this is the fact that you get continuous improvement and support by being involved in this. If you are a subscriber to the subscription service, you get these things and you get access to all the other tools that are available there. So I don't want this to sound like a sales pitch for Fusion 360. I'm just saying like these are extra things that you get with it. Whereas with the cons, you know, sure, you don't necessarily own that tool. It's not something you can fire up all the time. And yeah, it might feel like your designs are being held hostage, but is that the biggest thing that you should be worried about if you're starting a new business? You know, I'm not sure that's what you should be putting your sweat equity into, is worrying about those things.
And if those things are worrisome to you, then go use KiCad.
Right. Until KiCad gets bought up by somebody, and then and then you have to switch over to whatever else.
I don't know if that would ever happen, but that would be funny to think about.
Well, you know, when I first
man.
started getting into the game of finding an EDA tool, I started with Eagle, and it didn't ever seem like that was going to be the case.
Yeah. It would... The void screaming if KiCad ever got bought by someone would be...
Yeah.
I would have to, like, just, like, not go on Twitter for, like, a couple weeks, probably.
Well, to be honest, I think this shift is actually really good for KiCad because KiCad has assumed the position of being the hacker maker tool of choice.
Yeah.
And now there's, like, no other player anywhere near them.
How about
'Cause
free
it was-
PCB?
I don't know. KiCad seems full fat in comparison to
Yes.
those.
Oh yeah.
For
And
sure.
this is a good. Yeah. If anything, KiCad users should be happy that Eagle is moving out of their space.
Yeah, because for the longest time with the hacker maker community, it was Eagle and KiCad were your options, and it just depended on how like open.
Which
you
one
wanted
did
to
you
be.
click on first when you Googled, I need to build a board, what EDA tool should I use?
Actually, I would even argue like, what Hackaday article did you go to that you were excited about, and then which EDA tool did they show in the pictures, and you went that way?
Or
like, which one was it?
did you go to SparkFun first or Adafruit first? Because
Oh.
Adafruit uses a lot well, they only use KiCad. But I know back in the day, SparkFun used Eagle almost exclusively.
Yep. SparkFun provided all their own libraries and footprints and things like that for Eagle right on the product page.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what does SparkFun still do that, and will they continue to do that?
I don't know. I don't know what I haven't been to SparkFun and the website in a long time.
I have not either.
So I don't know if they have moved. I'm going to bet you they've moved to KiCad. They've had to have.
I don't know. And you know, I've lived here. I've lived 30, 40 minutes from SparkFun for almost 5 years now, and I still haven't been up there. I think they have like a Friday meet and greet, or like for a while I think they were doing like maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like they were doing pancakes on Friday or something like that, where you could stop by the lab and get pancakes and hang out.
I mean, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, like why have I not been?
So I think this is for a user of Eagle, and again, I haven't booted up Fusion 360 Electronics yet, But I do see this as finally like Fusion is finally starting to, or Autodesk is finally actually going to be start using and improving on the software. That's their initiative here, and so I'm looking forward to it, and especially since like for me it doesn't cost me any more money, so that's also where I'm at with this. Like it costs the same, right? Now, does an interesting thing to talk about that I didn't write down here is how does this impact open source designs? Because that's interesting to think about. Is you don't see open source designs using, I mean, they probably exist, but using Altium or Cadence. It's used to be it was only KiCad and in Eagle, where like those were like the two open source, not open source EDA tools, but EDA tools you use to build open source designs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bet you, I bet you actually since the move to subscription, that has even gone even more towards KiCad as the lion's share of that.
Oh, 100%. Well, I mean, just look at it. This is not a dig on anyone, but the open source community tends to lean towards the hacker maker community, which tends to lean towards the this is not my job or not what I get paid for community, which tends to lead towards what's the free option that's available such that everyone can utilize it, which meant Eagle or KiCad, and pretty much nowadays is going to mean KiCad.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's okay. Here's the thing that's actually kind of cool about that. I think the community, as long as the Eagle guys don't mind switching over to KiCad, there can be like an open source standard in a way. Like if you want to do open source projects, like just be prepared. It's probably going to be KiCad.
Mm-hmm. It's quite a bit different.
Translators, right?
It's quite a bit different than open source software when you think about it, because open source software you can use any IDE you ever want, right? I mean, as long as I'm talking about like JavaScript or Python or C++, that kind of stuff. Like you can use whatever you want, whatever IDE. You can use Visual Studio, you can use Electron, you can use a Notepad editor, and then a command line to compile. Like if you're doing C, like I did my first C# development with Notepad and then compiling it on the command line. It was terrible. Don't do that.
But you can.
But you can. Or like PyCharm or anything like that for that's Python. I think actually PyCharm supports like lots of other languages now, but that's by JetBrains. So yeah, like it. Whereas for hardware, you're kind of stuck with whatever the original creators' EDA tool they decided to use. You're kind of stuck with that. God forbid if they use a nightly version of KiCad, though. Don't use nightly versions, please, people.
Use stable ones.
Use stable release.
What is KiCad up to now? What number are they at?
7 point something.
7.0.5 is the current stable release.
Oh, look at that. Your Autodesk renewal goes in tomorrow. It's got an email for it.
They're listening.
Yeah, they're listening. Oh, cool. Anything else to talk about Autodesk KiCad? Or Autodesk getting rid of Eagle standalone?
I don't think so. Other than I'm on KiCad's website right now, and apparently KeyCon is coming up here soon. There's a European KiCad convention in that's happening in Spain. Huh, that's cool.
That's really cool. Is there a An Autodesk con, Autocon, Autocon, roll out.
I wouldn't be surprised if Eagle had people wanting to make a con. But yeah, I don't think so.
Point KiCad.
What do you do at a EDA tool con? Like, do a bunch of people sit around making boards?
I could see that. I bet, or like advanced tutorials, maybe. Maybe like a developer roadmap session.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, you can. I mean, it sounds like there's. Oh, let me look at the schedule here. I just want to see. Oh, okay. It's not fully set up yet. Okay, but apparently there's talks and things like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's just like any other con.
Yeah, I just imagine it's just like PCB design conference, except that they use KiCad as their EDA tool. And it would be cool if there was also, like what I said earlier, it's like a developer session where like you could see the roadmap of the tool you're using.
That would be cool. I would go to one of these. I honestly I would go to one that's generic. If there was just like PCB Con, that would be fun.
I think that does exist.
Does it?
Yeah.
I gotta look this up now.
I mean, there's a conference for almost everything out there.
Probably. Pennsylvania Certification Board. PCB.
That's the wrong kind of PCB. Okay.
Yeah, the largest conference and exhibition of printed circuit board design, PCB West, 2023.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay, we can move on.
Okay. So the next topic is the ex-Samsung executive allegedly to have stolen tech to recreate chip plant in China. And so this is like an executive is being accused of stealing the plans of a chip fab, a Samsung chip fab, I think to make memory. And the plan was he was going to build a new fab like right down the street of the Samsung one in China and like just make a copy, like take a clone stamp and make a clone facility.
Yeah, and when you say right down the street, it was something like a mile and a half. Like
Yeah.
right down the street.
Yeah. And my question here with this is, I mean, there's not a lot of information because it's like influx, you know, he said, they said, like people suing each other kind of thing going on. Is what was the, like, I'm imagining like something like the Death Star plans, right? Like something like building chips is so unbelievably complex, and all the systems and equipment and everything's highly specialized. So actually cloning something exactly would be really like, would even like a detailed plan of a facility even get you all the information you would need to just make the chips?
You know, that's a really interesting point. Like, let's say you were just gifted a manufacturing facility, but you have no idea what they made there, and you walked in and you had to make what they did. Could you, like, how much effort would it take for you to figure it all out?
Yes, and a good question would be like, okay, you walk into a chip fab, you and every employee there has amnesia. And they had to figure out how to make this facility do whatever it was supposed to do.
That's funny. I can tell you everywhere I've worked, it would be hard.
Yeah. But I'm just imagining like you know, like the desk, like instead of like the Death Star rotating, it's like a chip fab rotating in a hologram, and they're like, "There's the thermal exhaust port."
So this person was caught
Yes.
I suppose they're probably going to be spending some time in jail for this. Also, like, how do you request that? Do you just go to your secretary and be like, "Can you give me the plans for the whole facility,
Everything.
everything?"
And like, how many, like, all the knowledge also required to, like, 'cause you need all that too, all the process knowledge and all that documentation to also successfully clone a facility. Like, yeah, just like, how much data would that be? Like, in size? A couple terabytes, maybe? I don't know.
No idea. How much would it be for if you wanted to take a timestamp of all of Macrofab? How big would that be?
That's true, too.
It'd be gigantic, right?
Yeah, much bigger than I would think of right now.
Probably.
But I guess it also depends, though. It's like, what if there was just, because I think he was selling it or transferring it to like another fab, like another company, a competitor. And so the competitor would already know how chips are manufactured, but they might just need the secret sauce that Samsung had. And that might be the smaller piece that's easier to transfer. You know? And so maybe cloning or recreating the entire facility is not what you need, but you just need to copy that one part.
Mm-hmm.
That might be more. That's probably more of the truth of the matter with this story. Instead of just like actually cloning a facility. Though cloning the facility is way more interesting to think about.
Yeah, I wonder also like how custom the facility is, or if it's just like, here's a list of our machines, and if you buy them and set them up this way, you get the factory.
Yeah.
Or is it a lot more of custom design stuff?
Yeah. Like, is it more of the custom design process flow, what the secret stuff in the washes are, like the chemical formulas, or is it that just industry standard? I don't know too much about that level of a chip fab to say. I'm gonna bet you there's some proprietary stuff that is in
Probably. Well, okay, so as I guess a little bit of an example, if you gave me the list of machines that were in a manufacturing facility, an electronic manufacturing facility, I could buy them, hook them all up, and get them running in a similar capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot custom about a pick and place reflow with conveyor system.
Yeah. Now it's really how you program those. That's the secret sauce.
Yep.
And so I bet you that's more what we're talking about here is instead of cloning, it might have been, here's the list of our machines, and this is the secret sauce that we run on top of those machines, like the tooling and the actual process flow of how we move the product between all these machines. That's what's the most important part of it. Instead of just like, this machine needs to be set up right here, exactly 100 millimeters away from this door, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like if somebody came to me and was like, make me a macro fab, I would be like, well, I'll buy a my 200 and I'll buy a Heller oven and those kinds of things. But like, I'd have no back end. I'd have none of the software that does any of it. Like it would be impossible.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you literally had everything.
Yeah. So I bet you that's more what it is, which is not as exciting and cool, but Anything else about? I bet you he goes to jail.
Yeah, I bet he goes to
If
jail
he's
for a
found
long
guilty,
time.
he goes to jail.
Yeah.
No. I want to know how much he was offered to do this too.
I bet you he would probably owned a portion of it, so it might not have been offered
Ah.
anything. He was probably going to spin off and like, oh, there's this new chip facility a mile and a half down the road.
Down the road that I'm going to go work for.
Yep. I bet you it was one of those things.
Yeah. Okay. So next topic. Unconventional Father's Day gift ideas. So, what does an electronic engineer give their dad? Because Father's Day is coming up. So, what are you giving your
Are you
dad?
asking me what I give my dad? Okay, I have to admit, my dad is one of the most difficult people to buy for, and
I think that's like going to be like 90% of the people who listen to our podcast is going to say that.
I've tried lots of times in my life to buy my dad interesting stuff, and most of the time it ends up I end up defaulting to just getting him steaks, and he's happy. Like, I just buy my dad meat. Like, I learned that works, you know.
Oh yeah.
And
It's
like, okay,
consumable,
cool.
so you can just repeat the action over and over again.
yeah, I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, this year I'll get him this cut, this other year I'll get him a different cut, kind of thing. Just like to figure it out. But to be honest, I would love to get my dad something, I don't know, better than that. Even though like he's happy with it, like he literally is just like, oh, cool, okay.
Because I get my dad tools,
Yeah.
mostly because he has a lot of tools, but the problem is a lot of them are really worn out. And usually I will go down to their house down in Galveston and need to go fix something. They're like, hey, Parker, come fix this one thing. And I'm like, okay, where's your socket wrench? And it's like half the sockets are like just worn out. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get him a socket set or whatever. So like the last one I did was last year was I got him a toolbox because I would go down there and I wouldn't know where any of the tools were at because he had the tools spread out everywhere in like 8 different drawers. They were all organized. You'd open the drawer and everything's like perfectly laid out. But I would have to open up 8 drawers to find the tool I'm looking for. And so I bought him a toolbox so they all go organized into a toolbox. And so I'm like, okay, if I need a tool, it's going to be in the toolbox now. And so I only have to go to like one place to go. And I only have to open up like 4 drawers now.
As opposed to 8, right?
8 all spread out across the house. So
Okay, let me ask you something. This happens to me. I wonder if it happens to you. I have a standing tool chest that I keep. I have it organized in terms of like, this is wrenches, this is screwdrivers, this is blah blah blah. But I still, every single time I go to it, I still don't remember which drawer has which thing in it. Like, most of the time I get it right, but I'll still sometimes have to open like 2 or 3 drawers and be like, oh yeah, that was the screwdriver drawer, even though I've opened it 4,000 times.
I only have, in my tool chest, I only have 2 drawers that are like that because they have similar items in them. It's like like the weird small hand tool. So like has like an Allen wrenches in it. It's got like magnetic pickups. It's got snap ring pliers, like a whole set of snap ring pliers. But it's got all those style of tools, and they're honestly those 2 drawers should be split into like 5 drawers. And so I open up those 2 interchangeable I basically have to open up both of them to look for whatever tool I'm looking for in those drawers. But no, like, I know what tool drawer is, like the wrench drawer, and then I have a socket drawer, and then I have like a drawer for like crimpers. I have so many different kinds of crimpers.
Yep.
So, and like I started throwing in like die sets and stuff in there too now. I need a bigger toolbox. My toolbox is like a third the size it needs to be.
Okay, I just had an idea. I'm really excited about this. I've actually wanted to do this for a very long time. A friend of mine and I, we discussed this. Gosh, it's a decade ago at this point. We wanted to do an art show at a gallery to do this thing, but I don't know if anyone would ever even show up to a gallery for it. However, we just discussed earlier about getting a disc chorus, and this would be perfect for it because this is the right crowd for it. I want to start a thread in the discourse where people just take pictures of their tool chest. Just take a picture of your tool chest and
I like it.
post it in there. I want to have thousands of pictures of people's tool chests. That would be amazing.
Mine are the most organized chaos ever for toolboxes. Because like you'll pull open the socket drawer, okay, and I have organizers for all the sockets, and they're all in the right spot, and then all around it is just like all the crap that are socket related that I don't have holders for, and they just fill and mound up. You open up the wrench drawer, I have organizers that hold all the wrenches in order, largest to smallest.
But then crap all around.
And then all the other wrenches that I don't have holders for just get piled in the corner in that drawer.
Love it.
And then the worst offender, though, is my bolt drawer. I have a 5 foot wide, 2 foot deep, like depth, 6-inch down, I guess, drawer full of McMaster bags.
It's like probably 150 pounds of loose hardware.
Probably more. And I open that thing up, and I'm like, well, I'm going to throw this bag in there and shut that drawer and never think about it ever again until I'm like...
into the void.
Yeah, and then I use McMaster as my inventory system. Because I just go look up the order. I'm like, I wonder if I have any quarter 22-inch long bolts. And I go look in McMaster, and it'll say, oh, you purchased this a couple years back, and you ordered like 50 of them. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I bet you that's in that drawer somewhere. And then I open the drawer and rifle through it and throw them around, find the ones I'm looking for, and then slam the drawer back shut.
You want to keep drawers like that open as short as possible because
Yes.
you don't want to think that they exist. Right?
Well, no, the problem is if you leave them open, they expand. And, and then the contents don't fit back in the drawer.
I think that would make a really awesome thread where people can just be like, this is my tool chest, and we can all commiserate on how beautiful or not beautiful your tool chest is.
Yeah. Mine are definitely like it, like, you know how in D&D you have like the alignment chart.
Okay,
Mine's
yeah.
lawful chaos.
Yeah. Where does that fits? That's like the middle, not the middle, because like, isn't it chaotic neutral? Is the
That's the
like,
middle
dead
bottom.
center?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, neutral is center.
Neutral. Okay.
Because you have like good, neutral, and then chaos, and then you have unlawful. I don't remember what the middle one is. I think the middle one is neutral too, and then you have lawful. So mine's like
and
lawful
they
chaos.
say that like true neutral characters don't really exist.
No, they don't exist.
Like everyone leans some direction.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have a drawer somewhere that's chaotic evil, right? That's just
Chaotic. Oh, yeah. Yeah, mine's chaotic, like lawful good chaotic.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I can open my drawer and pull out a half-inch socket in the right size in like 10 seconds. It's all organized. It's all the other stuff around it that is like a hurricane of sockets. Like all like your crow's feet socket wrench ends, and then impacts and all the weird sizes. Like I have a socket that I have to take a picture of it and see if anyone knows what that socket's for. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm going to take a picture for it. But it's a octagon pattern. I think we lost Steven. Uh-oh. texted Steven, see if he's around. Oh, he's reconnecting. You still hear me? Well, I lost you. Let me just try refreshing. Hopefully that doesn't mess anything up. Well, let me just stop. Well, it looks like it's on Steven's end. Oh, you're back.
Whoa, you got me?
Yep.
That's weird. I never lost you that entire time. Like, your video and your audio was coming through just fine.
That's weird. All right,
The last thing I heard, you were talking about your 8-sided,
yeah.
and then I answered that, and you didn't
Okay.
come
Okay.
back.
We'll start over from there then.
Okay.
My dog is like, pay attention to me. All right. So, like all these random sockets, like crow's feet and like impact sockets, and I do have one that I didn't know what it was for until recently, and it's like an octagon-shaped socket. I'm not gonna say what it's for. You guess, but I'm gonna post a picture for other people to guess.
The first thing that came to mind, and this is probably wrong, was just a spark plug socket.
Now those are normal 6-sided.
Okay.
But there are special spark plug sockets that have like a rubber boot inside, so that when you put it over the ceramic, it doesn't like
You don't beat up the ceramic.
beat up the ceramic, because the ceramic's really fragile is not the right word. It's hard, but it cracks easily.
It's brittle.
Brittle. That's actually the best word for it. Oh.
An 8-sided socket. I don't know what that's for.
Yeah, it's really weird because it's like short and stubby too.
It's so my socket drawer. Okay, I have a little bit more chaos than yours. You said yours is fairly organized. However, like all the margins are filled with crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my socket drawer, I've been very diligent about only sockets in there, but all the sockets are just thrown into it. I have 2 dividers, so it's 3 sections of sockets. But those dividers don't mean anything. It's still just
So it doesn't mean anything.
however, I always know I need like a 10, 11, 12 millimeter, and that's almost always what I use. And so those are always in the same spot. So I'll open this drawer, and there's like 80 sockets in there, but I always know where the 3 I
that you
need
need
are,
are.
and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Never lose track of, especially the 10.
Yeah, especially the 10.
You gotta have it. The 10 is everything.
And you can't also, when you take it out of the drawer, you can't leave it. You can't let it leave your sight.
Oh, it'll walk.
Yeah.
We've talked about this multiple times. I hate cleaning because as soon as I clean, I don't know where anything is.
I can't wait to have enough shop space again where I can just actually have my drawers organized again. Like back when I first bought the toolbox, when I only had like the normal like shallow and deep sockets, I didn't have all this specialty stuff. That's what the problem is like the specialty stuff that's like you have one of. Like, I have a socket that's like the size of a soda can. That's got 4 fingers that poke off the end, and it's only for like indexing inside of a hub on 4x4 vehicles. It's called like a 4x4 like wheel hub socket.
Yeah, and where are you gonna put that?
It just goes in the corner in the socket drawer with all the other crap piled on top of it.
I've talked to my father a handful of times about, you know, his garage and tools, and he's like, you know, someday when I pass away, you'll get to go through all of this stuff. He's like, but a lot of my tools are specific to dirt bikes in the early 70s. And so he has like all of these like really special tools, like, you know, bearing pullers and all kinds of stuff
but
like that.
It's like a bearing puller for a specific year of a Honda.
Exactly. And on top of that, like it's an old tool where the box and the manual doesn't exist anymore. So it's like he just has a cardboard box that you pull this thing out, and he's really meticulous. So it's like well packed and everything. But at the same time, it's still like this tool that I'm gonna have no idea what it's for.
No idea what it does. Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be fun.
Yeah, you'll be like, it's a bearing puller, but to what?
yeah, and the thing is too, like, gosh, I don't want to talk about the mortality of my father, but the funny thing is, like, it could be a tool that's like to somebody is worth like $1,500 because it's that one tool. But for me, it'd be like, oh, it's a bearing puller. It's
$5.
Worth like $25. Yeah, right.
I like how this topic started at like Father Day, and now we're talking about like the death of your father.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the same thing when my grandparents passed. I had to watch my dad go and help my dad go through all his parents' stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the lesson my dad took away from that was, he was like, Parker, when I die, I don't want to leave you with that much junk to go through.
Yeah.
Because it was ridiculous how much stuff there was. And I'm hoping to be the same way. Like when you're dead, you don't have need for any of your stuff, right? So, it's like when you'll watch like American Pickers and stuff, and like 90% of the places those two go to pick the items for their store they go to hoarder places, right? And there'll be like an 80-year-old dude sitting on the porch, and he won't sell anything because he's going to get to that project someday.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like enough project stuff to last 8 people's lifetimes, and they're 80 years old. And I don't want to get that way with cars. Like, I love cars, and I want a lot of cars, but I've been pretty good about not buying something and just let it sit forever, and be like, I'm buying it because I'll get to it. I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
I don't want just to buy parts and be like, I'll get to it someday, because you'll never get to it. Some other shiny project will grab your attention, and you'll never get to that other project.
There's certain things that I think are worth being a little bit hoardery about, and like your bolt drawer, I think is a good example of that. Like, that's good because that's helpful, but like a bolt itself is not a project. It's a piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
And like, I'm working on my CNC electronics cabinet right now, and I was like, do I need to buy wire for this? And I was about to go buy a bunch of different varieties of wire so I could get everything, and then I stopped myself and I was like, have you looked around and just seen what wire you have? And I did some inventory, and I have more than enough wire to probably do 2 cabinets worth. Like, I didn't need to buy more because I've hoarded wire for the last decade and a half. And it's like, okay, you just need to calm down.
Yeah, I actually have a box. So at the end of a project, I go through all the wire, because you always have those cutoffs, right?
Yeah.
and I go through the cutoffs, and I'm like, if it's longer than 8 inches, I keep it. If it's under 8 inches, I just toss it, put it in the trash can or the recycle, and I have a cardboard box that says wire on it, and I put it in there. And that's actually when I start a new project. The first thing I do is I pull that box and go, do I have wire in here that I can use for this project to wire it?
Yeah.
And that box stays at about 70% full. It fluctuates.
It hovers.
Yeah, it hovers. It's actually been going down a lot since I've been wiring the box truck.
Hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Like, I use a lot of, because I had a bunch of like 12 gauge red and black insulated wire in there. I use like almost all of it so far.
A lot of offcuts.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things is when I'm done soldering a big board. Like, I've got all the parts on it, and I remove it from my desk, and then I just take a little broom and I scrape off all the solder shavings, all the little wire clippings, all the legs of components and stuff, and clean the desk. There's nothing better than hearing that all just go in the trash and like your bench is like back to being clean. Ah, it's great. Such a good feeling.
So yeah. Well, we won't get to the box truck this week because we're already like an hour plus in now.
Yeah.
It'll be next week.
Okay, next week sounds good.
Yeah. So that was the MacReb Engineering Podcast. We're your hosts, Parker Dillman.
And Stephen Craig.
Later, everyone.
Take it easy.
Thank you, yes, you, our listener, for downloading our podcast. If you have a cool idea, project, or topic, let Steve and I know. Tweet us at MacRab, at Longhorn Engineer, or at AnalogENG, or email us at podcast@macrab.com. Also, check out our Slack channel. You can find it at macrab.com/Slack. Who knew that unconventional Father's Day gift ideas would spawn talking about the morality of toolboxes?
We didn't even really talk too much about gifts for our father. Like a little bit.
We only did a little bit. That's okay.
Man, okay. Let me tell you a quick story.